everybody. My topic today is prison system in California, so try to stay awake. Alright, my main claim is the decision to approach crime by longer prison sentences has substantially increased prison costs in California. My first secondary claim is California is fighting crime by incarcerating as many criminals as possible. My second one is longer prison sentences causes overcrowding of prisons. And my third one is overcrowding of prisons causes a huge increase to the spending budget of California. Alright, let's start with my first one. A huge problem the prison system has right now is that we have a lot of criminals in there. And one of the big problems of why there's a lot of criminals in there is that we have a lack of re-education of criminals to keep the prisoners out. What I mean by that is that more than half of the released offenders come back after 3 years because they either did another crime or violated their term of release. 51% of the people that are on payroll will return to prison too. And then this has become such a big problem that a judge ordered prisons to increase educational programs like vocational and drug rehab programs and stuff like that to reduce this, to stop criminals from coming back into prison. But at the same time, because of the budget cuts and things like that, they had to cut money from those programs. They cut about $250 million from these programs. Now, I don't agree with giving the prison systems more money, but I do think the money that they already have, they should be investing it into programs like these to keep prisoners from coming back to prison, because that's a huge problem we have right now. Another problem that prisons have right now is the increased numbers of non-serious offenders. We have about 31,500 inmates in jail that are in there for drug problems or drug-related crimes, and that's about 18% of the prison population in California. I think that people who are there because of drug-related problems, they shouldn't be there. They need help for their drug addiction, things like that. Putting them in jail with murderers and other rapists and other things like that is not going to help them. We need to put them with rehab. By doing that, that frees up space, and we need the space for other criminals and things like that. And it frees our wallets up too, because we give them, the less prisoners in jail, the less we're paying for them. Alright, now on to my second claim. Okay, longer prison sentences causes overcrowding in prisons. One of the big problems we have right now in California is the three-strike law. If you guys aren't familiar with that, I'll give you a little description of that. The rule states that if a criminal who has been convicted of a serious offense on 3 or separate occasions will be given a mandatory and extended period of incarceration. Like I mentioned before, most criminals will come back to jail because they either did another crime. So this is a huge problem because we have criminals who leave and then they do another crime, and then they leave and they leave and then do another crime. So then most likely they're going to get third strike again, and they're going to be there for longer and longer and longer time. Now, a lot of people like this third strike. Some people like it because supposedly it's supposed to increase crime rates, but it's actually been proven that it doesn't do that much of it, a huge decrease in crime rates. Justice Policy Institute reported the analysis of 10 years of FBI Uniform Crime Reports data found that 3-strike states fare no better than states that did not adopt the 3-strikes law. Example of this is strike states had significantly better declines in serious crimes, 26.8% against 22.3%, and there was also property crimes were a little bit less in the states that had the 3 strikes implemented, at 25.9% versus 20.4%. And then, but non-strike states that did not implement the 3 strikes law had marginally better declines in violent crimes, 34.3% versus 33.0%. And they also had greater declines in homicides, 43.9% versus 38.2%. And as you guys can see, or if you heard, it doesn't really make a big difference, just like a 3 to 5% increase and decrease. So it's, the 3 strikes are not helping at all. What it's doing is just causing the prisons to become more overcrowded. Now, this is on to my secondary claim 3. Overcrowding of prisons causes a huge increase to the spending budget in California. According to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the current budget to oversee and supervise 316,229 inmates is almost at $11 billion. The average cost per inmate is $49,000. That's pretty good. Lawsuits, now, the prisons have been so overcrowded that we have another problem, that prisoners actually have sued the prisons and they actually have won. In 2009, federal judges tentatively ruled that California must reduce the number of inmates in its overcrowded prison system in order to stop the constitutional violation of prisoners' rights. It's so bad that prisons were actually operating at 200% over capacity. So now, because the judge ruled that, now California must provide inmates with medical, dental care, mental health services, and must take care of juvenile offenders and treat inmates who are disabled. And because prisons are overcrowded, there's also a lot of different problems that go into that too. Their spreading of diseases is easier. Dangerous behaviors come with it as well, like fighting, tattooing, piercings, unprotected sex, and drug use. Another big problem that overcrowded prisons has is hepatitis C. Now, because they're all like overcrowded, that spreads quickly, like I mentioned before. And each prison, a lot of prisons have a big problem with this. It's 25 to between 45% of prisoners have hepatitis C, and the cost to treat an inmate with this is $30,000. So it's a big problem. In conclusion, as all that I mentioned, we're in a big cycle right now. There's a lot of inmates coming in, and it's a big problem now, and we are paying for it. We're paying for all the inmates, and I think we need to stop it right now. We need to stop the third strike. There's a lot of problems that we have, and we need to fix it because we're going to continue paying for it if we don't. Thank you.
Right, well, you did a very good job indicating what the proposition was, and your secondary claims were labeled as the supporting points, and they were stated as declarative sentences. You also signposted them very clearly while you were speaking. I thought you also did a good job on each of those points explaining how you thought it contributed to the problem. Sometimes I think your proof was a little underwhelming, particularly on the first and second points. On the three-strike one, for instance, you've got a lot of data that argues that the three strikes doesn't work. What's missing is the data that shows that three strikes is contributing to overcrowding. So I think that's a little bit of an issue there. You get sidetracked. It sounds like it's a rebuttal argument against an argument that might be coming from the response speaker instead of an argument that advances the claim about overcrowding. On the third point, I thought you had a pretty good argument about the spread of disease based on the overcrowding, and the example of hepatitis worked well on that. You do an okay job talking to the audience, and just a little bit over time, that's all. Thank you.